don't want to get any copyright strikes. I've already gotten busted for the radio once. So here's the unboxing of it's a Extang Trifecta 2.0. Don't know what 2.0 is about. Or something. So that should come straight up out of there. Just put it on the carpet. There's the destructions. So it looks like there is a couple of brackets that have to go in, which is fine. We don't have this trail ready rail system or whatever they call it. So hopefully, so we don't have the rail system, but all the holes are there for it. This Gladiator came with a spray and bed liner, I think from the factory, because it's actually on the window sticker. And I've heard a lot of people complaining about the holes, the bolt holes, having bed liner in the threads. Now that being said, looking at these instructions, it looks like the clips go underneath, possibly underneath these plastic pieces right here. So that'll be kind of interesting. Well, we'll dig out the brackets and see what they look like. Nothing but a warranty card left in there. So the last cover we had was a roll-up cover, and we looked into buying that same exact one for the Gladiator, but all the descriptions that I saw for it said it had to have the trail ready rail system or whatever the hell they call that. And I'm not going to buy a $350 rail kit to put on a $400 cover. I like the roll-up design a little bit better than the tri-fold or whatever you want to call it. But this had really good reviews and the price isn't bad. Hardware. If the bed rail caps are not trimmed in the rear tailgate section, cut using the scribed lines to expose the areas shown. So we will have to remove this piece of plastic right here. So the front cab brackets, it looks like we may get to play around with having to deal with the truck bed coating in the threads. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and cut this piece of plastic on a brand new truck. That's always fun. Try not to go too much. There's no need to, I don't want to score up with the red one. There we go. That works. Oh, it's fine. That's all we needed. So that part is done on that side. So I'm trying not to push too hard. Because I don't want to, trying not to score the paint for rust prevention. That one wants a little bit more. Okay, so that part's done. Both sides. These brackets go right here, and since there isn't any paint in those threads, they should be pretty easy. The one I'm hiding underneath the camera. So this notch is going to go facing down. And we'll have to scare up the appropriate size Torx bit. I think it might say in the instructions what size it is. So the rear hardware is T30. Isaac's going to run those down. And the torque is pretty light. It's like 100 inch-pounds or something like that. You don't want to strip out any of these holes. 70 inch-pounds for the rear, so that's pretty light. So basically just bottom that guy out, bud, and then just give it just the tiniest crank. Let's see if I can figure this guy out.
How tight is it?
70 inch-pounds, which is not very much. That's probably good. So it looks like our stack up on this guy is going to be so that's going to be like that, and then the well nut, and then this monster bolt is going to go right there. We'll put one of those in just a minute. I'll believe that when I see it. So what I'm doing is taking a 1/4 inch drill bit, and this drill bit is smaller than the hole size. So if you want to use something to scrape at the bed liner, don't use a drill bit that's so big you're going to damage the threads. It did scrape out some of the bed liner coating. So I'm going to go ahead and just run a bolt in there and make sure that the threads aren't going to bind up. This is a much bigger torque size. Okay, so this will be the moment of truth as to whether we're going to have to get real crazy to try and get this bed liner picked out of here.
Do you want those? Fine.
Now it goes without saying, if you have a tap that fits this bolt size, you can obviously run a tap through there. Well, I don't have a tap that's this size here. Go ahead and hand me the picks, bud. They're the one that has like a 45-degree crick in it. Yep, that's the dude. There's some more bed liner coming out. Okay, this guy's home free.
You should be fine on this one.
I hope so.
It's just like the first couple of.
Okay, so get some light in here. There's that little rubber well nut. It's going to swell up as we torque the little screw. The what? Looks like Mama's leaving staples in the bed already. Okay, so little rubber well nut goes in the top hole, which doesn't have any threads, and that's just started but not compressing the well nut yet. So the rest of the bracket is going to tuck up behind the bed rail right here, which we are doing. And then we're going to put this guy in. I think I'm going to go ahead and tighten this guy down first. No. Okay, I'm not going to torque it all the way yet. This big bolt, it says, is 155 inch-pounds. Now I'm not quite sure how tight we're making the little tiny rubber nut. So I'm going to have to just give some advice on the little rubber well nut. There is no tightening spec for this in the instructions. It just says to snug it. So that's not very much. That's plenty. This is 155 inch-pounds. Calibrated wrist is perfect. That bracket is done.
Other side.
The rear brackets are done. We're going to go ahead and put the driver's side together, and then we'll get back to putting the actual cover on. We got all the brackets in, and we're getting ready to put the actual cover on. I wanted to say that when I was looking for covers for these things, I was obviously reading a handful of the reviews out there, and somebody had given this particular cover like a 1-star review because they said the brackets were too hard to install because you needed like 10-inch long fingers. You kind of saw how we put the brackets together. I don't understand why somebody would say that. The only thing I can possibly think of is that the installer was trying to put those rubber well nuts on, like actually put the nut on from back here, which is not how it's intended to be done, because other than that there's nothing difficult in putting the hardware on. So we are to this step here. Prior to placing the cover, remove both front clamp knobs off of these long studs, and then those 2 studs are going to drop into the forward brackets. Forever and 1,000 years we had the solid version of this cover on our F350, and the solid fold Extang on an 8-foot box Super Duty is a tank. It was obnoxious to work with because it was so big and heavy. So this will be an interesting change of pace. So go ahead and take the knob off of that side. And these are the studs that we're going to drop down through the forward pair of brackets. So we will do that now.
Should be pretty light.
Much lighter than the solid one. Go ahead and flip it up. So you'll have to pull that stud over, and then you'll feel the hole in the tab. There you go. So we just unfolded it after lightly setting the torque on the front 2 knobs. Those are always done by hand. You don't want to use any tools on those knobs up at the forward brackets. So this is our first unfolding, and I would have to say that it is very, very close to being square right out of the box and setting it on there. I think they're just friction. Yeah, just kind of pick at it with your hands and it'll come out.
It's not very lined up though.
Okay, so what that means,
It'll not reach. Where's your side?
what we might have to do is go forwards. And that's kind of why we left the fronts loose just a little bit. All right, so if we're still square, what we'll probably do next is we'll climb up front and tighten those front knobs down just a little bit more, and we should be just about done. So here we are with the finished product. It looks very nice. I don't see any glaring issues in the weather strips or anything like that. So far, very happy with it. We got it set, we got it squared, we got the front tension set, and I know it's kind of dark and gloomy outside, but we'll take a look at the operation, if you will. Pretty simple. In the back, there's these two levers, locks, latches. They can just be tucked up. There's one on each side. They're pretty stout. And then it just tri-folds. Nice and light. There you go. So that's the open position. It's one of the things that most people don't like about the tri-folds, is that's as open as you can make it. If you need the bed more open than that, you have to take the cover off, which is 2 knobs. It's not the end of the world. So they got these straps on here to keep it from blowing open if you got to go down the road with the cover open. So that's what it looks like all opened up, and with the straps attached down on it. And it probably won't be open very much for us. I like the tension that they had on there. These retaining straps. And we'll go ahead and close it. I've seen a lot of people drop these and kind of slam them down, and I don't think it really hurts it, but I have seen it knock them out of square before, so always just kind of go easy on the cover and set it down. And after a while you'll get to where you can run these latches in the dark, and it's easy to use. It just becomes muscle memory. So that's pretty much the installation of the Trifecta 2.0 made by Extang. If you guys have any questions on the installation, it's super easy. Just let me know. It's pretty cold out today. It's got a few wrinkles in it from being in the box, but like that'll go away over time. Real happy with the tension. And hopefully the tension stays nice and consistent through the winter and the summer, and it doesn't get all wrinkly. But as time goes on, time will tell.